and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Let's go.
Round one. Fight.
Thank you for tuning in to the Crypto Street Podcast. Here are your hosts, Killer Whale, Prince, and Crypto Dale.
And remember to tip your waitress.
What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Crypto Street Podcast. This is Crypto Dale, not Killer Whale. For those concerned and confused, was told today that Killer, where you at?
Hello. How are you?
Give me some audio. There we are. I was told today that you and I sound identical.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we sound pretty similar, but I feel like anybody listening for more than a few episodes could pretty consistently tell them apart. So maybe a sign of a Crypto Street Podcast noob.
You know what I told them? I said, all you got to do is look to see at Killer's hair, and you'll know that it's Killer talking, because those locks that he's got on that head are hella better than mine.
Had to chop them off a little bit shorter, but a little bit less locks, but still some locks.
Did you just say Lux?
Maybe I did.
Lux. Ooh.
Take a drink, everybody.
Oh, we're not doing shots again?
Oh my God, that was so much fun doing the live stream yesterday.
Oh, that was awesome. That was great.
And I actually was drinking during that
Prince.
for anybody who doubts it.
Yeah, tour guy.
I was not.
Prince,
What?
where's our weatherman?
Oh, Grumpy Bear.
Oh, weather.
Did you wake up from hibernation a tinge earlier, or what?
Yeah, man. Frick. Bitcoin doesn't let me hibernate. So I'm always out. Weather sucks.
Do you have
Nothing
any
good.
Do you have any Bitcoin on Binance?
Binance? No, I don't. IRS. Thanks.
It's
Thanks
a little
for
bit
asking.
premature, but Prince, you
so-
called the Bitcoin movement pretty well here, hitting like 10,800.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at what I do. So, you know.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I take it back then.
I was just reading
Never mind.
something. I was just reading a review today on. Someone said something. I like the podcast because they're not so full of themselves like others. So there goes that thing. They're gonna go. They're gonna
Go,
head
"Damn
out
it."
and freaking insta delete that. Deleted.
Sorry. That's the side of me that doesn't get out very often.
Today's guest is Birch. One of his group on Telegram is one of the largest crypto groups. Crypto Bravado Crypto. I'm sorry, I butchered that.
Bitcoin Bravado.
Hey!
Bitcoin Bravado. Fuck, my bad, Birch.
Same difference. Crypto Bravado, Bitcoin Bravado. We're all Bitcoin maximalists.
So what's good, man?
so
Thanks for joining us on short notice. We're pumped to have you on.
no doubt, I love being a stand-in. It's actually it's one of my goals in life to be second runner-up to someone like Luke or Cred, Rand.
Or Gat.
Gat. I've been second runner-up for Gat since the day I met him, so I'm used to that.
You know what? Now he can't hold it over your head that he's been on this and you haven't.
Yeah,
True.
I know. He's been holding over my head for the last, I think, 11 days since he was on it. Whatever it's been. But who's counting? Not me.
Shout out to Gat. We partied in Santa Monica not too long ago. Good time. Good guy.
Yes, that's my brother right there. I love that kid.
Yeah, Gat's a good dude. So, Birch, how we kind of start with every guest is just, give the listeners kind of a rundown on how you got into crypto, when it was, and what maybe sparked some interest, or, what's your favorite thing about the space?
Yeah, so I'm in it for the money, not the tech. Keep it simple. No, in all reality, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I'm at Bitcoin Birch on Twitter, and I actually got into crypto as an investor in mid-2015, and it was primarily because it was the easiest way for me to play blackjack online. Kind of a degenerate poker player, not so much of late. Blackjack, and there's this website called BitStars, right? And so it was a lot harder to whip out the MasterCard and force an approval to gamble online. And so that was what introduced me to crypto. And I found Coinbase and bought myself some Bitcoin, and the rest is kind of history. So 2015, but it wasn't for about another year. So it was about mid 2016 that I realized that just holding this crypto in my wallet was paying a lot better than gambling was. And so I kind of had that moment like, wow, this is what the hell even is Bitcoin, right? And so, though I had heard about it probably going back to 2012 or 2013, though I was familiar with it, I didn't really start dabbling, if you will, until mid 2016. And I spent pretty much the first year of my time as an investor and as a wannabe trader in the space, just kind of stalking a lot of folks on Twitter, a lot of the folks that we know and love. Just watching videos on YouTube, just trying to learn how to chart, just kind of going through the motions. And I got lucky with Ethereum at $12, and Ant shares at the time was about $3. Not at the same time that Ethereum was 12, but those were kind of the two first big hits that I had after spending about a year trying to figure myself out. And now a couple of years into trading and investing, it's something I do full time. I do this for a living, and what I love about this space, as I always tell people, is that I come from the start, like kind of a startup background, tech startup in particular. I was with a company as they went through an IPO. And so what I love about this space is it's the first time ever that folks like me, regular dudes, regular gals, have an opportunity to invest in some of the most exciting young startups in this space. None of us had a chance to invest in Uber or Facebook or Grubhub or Amazon, right? And not early, right? And so that's what excites me so much as an entrepreneur, as a startup enthusiast, is that I get to, without having to go through any special ramifications or whatever, it gives me an opportunity to invest in companies that I think are cool and that are disrupting their markets.
So as the founder of one of the biggest Telegram crypto groups out there, at what point did you see a need for a group like this? And how long has Bravado been running?
Yeah, so basically, during my journey in that first year and a half, I was obviously on Telegram and I was on Twitter. I wasn't even Bitcoin Birch at the time. I wasn't trying to make a name for myself again. I was just trying to quietly learn and just kind of pick stuff up. And I found myself into plenty of those pump and dump groups. We can call them all out on Telegram. And I'll be honest. I'm curious how you guys feel about it. But when I first found some of those groups, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's pump some coins. Like, I'll buy your pump and dumps. Let's go.
Yeah.
When I was like, is this? I was telling my buddy, this is probably again like mid 2016, maybe early last year, and I was like, yo, we can just. They tell us when to buy it, and then they pump it, and then. So I learned quickly the hard way that was no way to invest or try to play in this space. And after actually getting wrecked and following really bad advice and just also seeing just the shit that's on Telegram. They don't speak English. They don't use periods and commas, and their names are literally like Rocket Pump Group and shit like that. I quickly realized as someone with like a background in sales and branding and things like that, I was like, man, we got to do something better. And so Bravado was born as not as something that was supposed to be as big as it is. It was born as a community for me and like 20 dudes that talked crypto all the time. And that's really what it was. And I woke up one morning and no joke, there's 200, 300 people in this group after like 2 days, 3 days. We hadn't told anybody about it. Neo was going on a run. And we were talking about it because that was like my favorite coin at the time, because I was, a little bit more of a noob. Mm-hmm. And we quickly had that moment where we're like, man, we got to like rebrand this. Let's get a logo. Let's start putting together real stuff. And me and like 5 people came together and just started digging through every coin we could find and doing full market write-ups and analysis and just really passionately sharing our opinions on some of the projects we were bullish on. And people really gravitated to that. They gravitated to the fact that we articulated our thoughts in a responsible way, and that we were very transparent. And they kind of gravitated to the fact that we were on the same journey they were. And this was in like May, June, July of last year is when we were first ramping up Bravado, and we really kicked it off in August. So it blew up quick.
So, I mean, you mentioned the pump groups. It's really funny because I had the same exact mindset. It's like, you got to put on this public face where you're like, oh, pump groups, those are awful. Meanwhile, you're scouring Telegram. You're like, what's the next pump? But that's kind of, indicative of crypto in general. It's just that sort of weaning out process of all the garbage projects and more of a transition to quality, which I think is very evident with your group.
Yeah, that's our number one focus. If you read our newsletter, I think that you would have respect for the way that we kind of put forth our thoughts. And again, we do this all day. We sit in an office together and we write and we research and we kind of dig and we trade, we invest. I think one thing that's different too is that in the last 79 days, but who's counting the downtrend? for the majority of that 79 days, bounced off the log trend, guys. Still in a downtrend. For the majority of that time, we haven't mentioned a single altcoin. We've covered a few projects that we've said like, hey, whenever things start to pick back up, like we're going deep on these, and I'm happy to discuss some of those. But we've pretty much been telling the community like, unless you really know what the hell you're doing, you better just stay out. Like just kind of hang back and kind of sit tight, play Bitcoin. And so we've kind of been stressing 70-80% Bitcoin, portfolio allocation for quite a long time. And now I think a lot of us are prepared with some powder on the side to take some really deep positions in some lower market cap altcoins that we think will be huge in the next cycle. That's kind of where we're at.
So speaking of Bitcoin dominance, that reminds me of a topic that just came to prominence today. Coinbase announcing that they are going to have a Coinbase index, which will involve all of the coins that are listed on GDAX. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and I guess Bitcoin Cash, oddly enough.
Yep.
But it's basically going to be an index by market capitalization weight of those 4 coins. So what are your thoughts on that? I know it's very new stuff, but your kind of instant reaction to that?
Yeah, my instant reaction to that was that it's a good thing. And the reason I think that is because anytime a $1.8 billion company, and this is real $1.8 billion, valued in the traditional VC space, puts their, moves forward for crypto or rolls something out that's going to get more institutional or even just bigger pocketbooks kind of into this space, I think that's good for us. It's going to make it more challenging. I think my buddy Korean Jew has talked a lot about the fact that the way that we make money in this market or the way that we were used to making money is very much going to change. But my first thought is that it's positive. I hope that you can have some control over that fund. I don't think you'll be able to, but I'd like to probably cut my Bitcoin Cash holdings to zero. But it is only for accredited investors, so you do have to have a yearly income of $200K or a liquid net worth, not including real estate, of $1 million. And as someone who could kind of fit into that category, will I be dabbling in that space if possible? I probably will explore it. No doubt.
And they're going to have an index too, right? Just like a basic index that's going to track it all, so people can watch that.
That's what I was reading. Yeah.
Yeah, the fund is based on the index.
It's based on the index,
okay.
Right?
Well, let's hope they get some nice futures contracts for that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think it's certainly going to be attractive. It's certainly going to attract a lot of outside money, big money. Like you said, it's only for accredited investors. The minimum investment on the fund is going to be $10,000. So that's going to be a bit of a barrier to entry for some people. But again, that's not what this is for. This is for getting the really big institutional money, the really wealthy segment of people into it. And I think more than anything, what this means is that it's really bullish for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. Hate to say it, but if you look at any other big let's look at a stock, for example. If a stock gets added to the S&P 500, that's a really positive thing for that stock because that means that all of the big funds and people and private equity groups that are buying the S&P 500 ETF, it's going to benefit that coin. They're essentially buying bits, or not the coin, but that stock. So they're essentially buying bits and bits of that stock. And this is going to function very much in the same way, where you're going to see, I think, it's going to work as sort of a tailwind for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash.
I think you'll see the same with Robinhood too, right? So they're going to have they're going to have more currencies than just those 4, but those 4 are going to be the most prominent in their portfolio as well, in their offerings. So I think that being bullish on some of the big caps as the market cap starts to hopefully find some stability above 400 million and head back to $1 trillion. I think that if you're not diversified into some of those big caps, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I think it's silly. At least 30-40% of my portfolio will always be tied up in Bitcoin, and at least probably another 25-30% will be tied up across some of those other big caps. Monero being my new favorite big cap, by the way.
My man. There we go.
I love hearing
looking
that.
Good. Chart's looking good.
We were talking on a live
It
stream
is
about how
looking
undervalued
pretty sexy.
Monero is.
Monero, caramel, caramel. Yeah. I think it's extraordinarily undervalued. The fact that Stellar outranks it by $1 billion blows my mind. Neo is up there. Cripple,
Yeah.
Can you believe
shorted
that?
the shit out of that
It
today.
dumped on the Coinbase, basically reiterating the fact that they weren't committing to adding anything. Like that's new information. It's unreal.
I know.
Which they had said like before too.
I know.
It's,
Yeah, like contrarian
Still
me
dumps.
is like thinking like, okay, Coinbase denies it. That means for sure it's going to happen. I'm like, time to buy Ripple.
Well, you never know, right? Like they had so much shit go down with
Bitcoin
that,
Cash,
Bitcoin
insider
Cash.
trading stuff.
So yeah, honestly, I don't think they would say regardless if they were. You know, to me, I think it would be the same answer
Yeah,
around. No, we're
exactly.
not.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of heat for that Bitcoin Cash ad. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I think there's at least one
some
lawsuit.
new lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, saw a new one.
Didn't
come
it?
out
What did it
recently,
pump to
so-
on Coinbase? $9,500 or something crazy like that.
I think it
Didn't
was
someone-
around
I
that
can't
high.
even
It's
remember.
hard to believe.
It was
but-
ridiculous.
Someone paid like $9,000 for Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, it was
Jesus.
insane.
Walk that guy off the ledge.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane. I was in Peru when that was
Yeah.
going down. Thank God I couldn't get in because everyone was trying to FOMO, myself
Well,
included.
Yeah, I think like on Bitfinex, I think I remember like on the Bitcoin pairing for Bitcoin Cash, it went up to like 0.5 worth, of a BTC. So like, and that was the biggest spike, which at the time Bitcoin was pretty up there. I think maybe it was around 16K, 17K or so. So yeah, that's pushing 10K almost.
Yeah,
Bitcoin Cash.
that's
It's pretty crazy.
unreal.
Birch, what do you think of Bitcoin's price action right now?
I think it makes a lot of sense. We were all watching the inverse head and shoulders approach the log trend, the log downtrend. There's been a big controversy. I don't know if it's a controversy, but it's definitely been a hot topic, linear versus log, something we covered in Bravado pretty extensively. And for me, I was actually okay looking at the linear downtrend because it was only a 70-day window. And I'm not a TA expert, but I have spent most of the last 2 years studying it. And in my experience, in a shorter window, a linear trend isn't the end of the world. But with that being said, most of the OGs and certainly most of the people I respect most on the TA side were focusing on the log trend. And so today we made the third contact with that log trend. And typically the third contact is the confirmation point, right? That third test. Because you can connect a straight line to any 2 points, right? You can, no matter where they're at. And so you need that third point to really have a trend line, and we rejected at that trend line today, which kind of confirmed that we're still in this downtrend.
Mhm.
It was also at the end of a rising wedge pattern that we shared a lot as well. So I wasn't surprised to see it come down, and I'm actually personally thinking that we do come closer back to 10K, in the next couple of days.
I almost feel like the linear log thing is like people choose whichever chart supports their opinion. Like they're like, oh, the log
Their
chart looks
theory,
like
right.
what I think, so I'm going to use log.
I find linear is just kind of gross. Like I just don't like looking at it. It's
Yeah, it doesn't look as cool.
no, it's a little sloppier looking.
Yeah.
Log is nicer. It's a little tidy. But
Yeah.
it's funny because you mentioned about it made the third touch on the downtrend line, which is kind of nice to see because now it is a confirmed trend line. And there's kind of this whole saying where it's like 1, 2, 3 attempts, and then the next one it'll go.
The fourth one will break through, right?
Yeah. So, I think, and I do believe that we probably will see, the next attempt breakthrough. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out though.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna need to pick up volume. That's just been the thing that's suffered across the entire space. A lot of people ask me like, what's going on across the market, and the reality is volume just hasn't been there overall. I think we're sitting around $16-17 billion a day in volume,
Mm-hmm.
and just by comparison, back in the December rush where everyone was millionaires and buying Lambos, the volume on one of the highest days was somewhere near $60 billion. So put that in perspective when you're looking at almost consistently for the last 2 months, we've been right around $17 to $18 billion a day in volume. It hasn't gone down, it hasn't gone up, and that's mostly just trading volume. And so there's just not a lot of new money coming in the space, and without that new money, we're going to struggle to break that downtrend.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just waiting for Trex to open up the floodgates again because
Same.
got to get these exchanges opening up, let the new money in.
Yeah, and yesterday they mentioned their TUSD. If you guys want to talk about that,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Because I know we kind of chatted about it a bit last night in our
Oh, you
live
did?
stream, but a little bit. We kind of touched on it.
that's the only live stream I've ever missed. I won't miss another. I apologize. Yeah, I think.
What are your thoughts about it? Yeah.
So I think Bitrex supporting anything like that. I mean, obviously Bitrex supports Tether, right? And so on the one hand, you're like, well, they support Tether, and we all have our opinions on that. Even though I personally, I'm not too concerned with it. I think I think that it's good because I think that it gives people something to fall back on. If you're really tied up on all this Tether FUD, at least True USD claims to be fully collateralized, completely backed by money in a bank account, basically underlying asset pool that's held in different partner banks. So I personally don't give a shit. I almost never hold Tether or any derivative thereof anyways. If I'm not in alts, I'm probably in Bitcoin. And if I am going to sell out, I'm going to do it on GDAX. But so I don't care, but I think it's good. I think it gives people something else to fall back on, and that's a positive thing. And we'll see how it plays out. I'm looking forward to their USD pairings that they've promised. And I'm hoping that this isn't their soft attempt at like saying USD pairings won't be ready for a while,
Yeah, I think you talked about new money or no new money really coming into the space and trading volumes being low. One of my favorite things to look at, just in terms of like mass adoption, the noob adoption, is the Google Trends for Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, all those kinds of terms that we all probably did at one point. We hop on a Google, we go, oh, what's this Bitcoin? And so if you look at that, the Google search trends for Bitcoin are as low as they have been since October 8th. Wow. So it's been quite some time. And it seems like a little bit gimmicky, this chart, but I think there are some studies where the Google search trends chart actually lines up with the price chart fairly well in a lot of cases. So I think that just furthers your point. And I think maybe that's, sort of the new wave of people getting a little bit unenthused. I mean, we had a lot of people buy in at the top in January, I think. So you still have those people who are underwater and going, oh, I knew it was a scam. I shouldn't have done anything. But it's going to be interesting to see how that responds.
Yeah, Donnie Crypto's favorite line in December when I was talking to him a lot was noobs are going to get baptized. Little did I know that we were all going to get baptized. The reality is, like, everybody lost money over the last 80 days. I sold some Bitcoin at 18.5. I sold some at 15.5. I sold some at 12. I even sold some Bitcoin at 8,800. And I even said, as I was in my office with my team, and I was like, I'm panic selling 8,800. I don't care. Watch it. I'm going to panic sell it. And I did. And that's when it went down to 57. And so that ended up being a decent trade. But the point is, we're selling some here and some there and primarily holding. I got wrecked. A lot of people got wrecked. I'm still up like 2,000%, but it's going to take some time to earn the trust of the noobs back.
I think it's a really good point for you to make, though. Like, even though you kind of saw it coming and you're planning out for it, it still got hit. And, like, I look at my situation, it was the same dealio. I remember I started loading up my portfolio into, precious metals and stuff because, I kind of was like, yeah, this is probably going to go down. But I didn't really reduce a lot of my exposure other than that, right? So it's like, yeah, still getting hit. Even unless you went completely to cash, you're not getting hit.
Right. And that's not in our nature as traders. It's not really in our nature as people who are investing in an emerging asset class either. I mean, most of the people I talk to kind of think like me. We kind of have a bit of a hustler's mentality. We try to be educated with how we approach the market. But at the end of the day, too, I got into this space because I like to gamble, and there is a part of that that's gonna hold you back sometimes from going all. I don't go all in any one direction, right? I'm not going to go all in cash or all in Bitcoin.
I love that you can admit it, though, that you love to gamble, because I, like myself too, I freaking love to gamble, and I know that.
I lost $1,100 on a blackjack hand on Friday with Crypto Gat sitting right next to me because I'm a degenerate on one hand. So there's a part of that, right?
Yeah, and the thing is,
absolutely is.
I think it's important to allow yourself a little bit of that, because if you're trying to do a strategy that is not in sync with your personality and your desires and your vices and stuff like that, I mean, you're not going to stick by that strategy. It's just going to be more difficult than if you. I mean, my kind of intermediate step that I've done with this is I give myself a really small trading portion, because I know, odds are if I'm trading that much, it's probably going to end badly for me. So I think I allow a little bit of that, but I try not to have too much of my portfolio. I'm talking like maybe 5% is like my trading stash.
I love crypto because there's just, to me, it's funny. Okay, in class, I got a buddy and his family is pretty big into real estate, and so he likes to talk to me about crypto, and he's like, man, why are you start moving out, get into real estate or something. He's like, just get out of crypto. It's so risky, but it's like, and of course, a lot of what we do as traders is working to control that risk in a sense. But no matter what, you can work to control it a lot, but there's still going to be so much risk in crypto. And I think like I just love that. Like I would probably be kind of bored.
Yeah, everyone has an opinion too. I mean, I have some guys at work who I've told, a little bit about crypto and when I got in and stuff. And I still remember Bitcoin's at like 1,500 and they're like, dude, you got to get out. Your returns have been way too good. You got to get out and take some profit. And I was like, not yet. I think it's going to run a little bit more. And then I remember at like 10,000, they're like, what, dude, what are you, crazy? Like, you got to take some out. Like, you're out of your mind. And I'm thinking to myself the other day, I'm like, these people know absolutely nothing about crypto other than what I've told them. And yet they're giving me really strong opinions on what I should do with my assets. They don't know which ones I hold. They have no idea where the space is going or where it's even been. But yet they still have these strong opinions. And I think it's one of these fallacies of human intelligence where you think if you're smart in one thing, it means you're smart in everything. And I think it's sort of like me going into a doctor's office or a surgeon's table and being like, oh yeah, that's the aorta. We're going to want to seal that up and, for sure seal that. That's going to be bad if you do it that way. Like, it just seems nutty. But like when you present it that way, it seems completely ridiculous. But these people have no qualms because they're like, oh, well, it involves numbers. So it's kind of the same as finance, right? Like, no, like it's so much more complex than that.
There's a lot of people who have, I think, big misconceptions on risk too,
Yep.
right? So, they'll look at crypto and they'll think, oh, it's so risky. But really, to me, risk reward wise, crypto is really good to be in.
And I think a lot of people conflate risk with volatility. And volatility is an aspect of risk, but there's so many more things that factor into it. Like, we're all pretty young guys, right? So our time horizons for our investments are probably conservatively like 15, 20 years. And so it's way different than some 60-year-old going, oh my God, you're up 10 times? Like, why the hell don't you take it out? It's like, bro, I got time, don't worry. Like, I don't need anything big right now. I don't need to buy a Lamborghini or a boat. I mean, maybe someday I'd like to, but it's very funny to watch these people try to have a grasp on it.
I think some advice that I like to share with newer folk, and I think kind of Bravado's main demographic is definitely people who are newer in the space. I think if we're being honest, the majority of the space is newer. I consider myself very new, and I've been actively investing for over 2 years. Yeah. With that being said, I think that's something that people need to kind of remember is kind of like that risk management piece. When they come into it, you have to have a plan with what you're going to do when certain events transpire. Ven was one of my favorite coins. Ven was another big winner for me and kind of the team. We really started getting on it around 20 cents. At that time, I told everybody I was going to sell 90% of my Ven if it ever hit $4. And that's what I did. And it ended up going to, I think, $7 or something. And people were, man, aren't you pissed? Like, absolutely not, bro. I bought it at 20 cents. I'm not pissed. I sold it at $4.
Yeah.
And now I have 10% left over that I'll just hold for 2 more years because it's just one of those projects I love. And so people, a lot of times they come in and they tell me, it's usually my Lyft drivers, the ones who are really big on Ripple. Every Lyft driver I've ever spoken to, I live in Chicago, I take Lyfts everywhere, and they're all in Ripple and they all love it. But my Lyft drivers always, well, yeah, I would have sold it at 20K. I would have gotten out of 20K. And it's like, dude,
the hindsight
exactly. And I have somewhere in writing in one of my Telegram groups with a couple of my friends, I type something to the effect of, I promise you, if Bitcoin hits 20K, I will sell everything. Like I was so adamant. And then little did I know, 6 weeks later or something, it was pretty close to that time I said that, Bitcoin hit 20K and I didn't sell a thing, right? And I'm pretty close in the space, and I like to think I know what I'm doing. And so just kind of for all the newer guys out there listening, thinking hindsight's 2020, you got to have a plan kind of going into it.
Treat it like a business.
Treat it like a business.
And everything is so relative too. Like, I think we all probably, personally, when I started, I had very little money and I had a number in my mind, whether it be like 25K, 50K, where I'm like, okay, if I can make this much, I am out. Like, I'm going to take it and run,
Great.
And like, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm going to do all the responsible things, contribute maximum to an IRA. But then you start hitting these things and you get used to that money really, really easily. And it does not seem the same to you as it did 4 months ago when you had nothing. Because it's all relative. I think it goes back to no matter how nice your house is, eventually you're gonna get used to it. No matter how nice or fast your car is, eventually that's gonna become your normal.
So true.
And it's all perspective. It's all
so
relative.
True. Once you make $1 million, you want 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. Like it's kind of never enough. But you have to have a plan going into it. And I think if you stick to that plan, it's hard to regret it looking back. Dragon was another big one. I'm going to sell at $3. I'm going to sell a bunch. And I sold less than I should have, but I sold a bunch. And hindsight's 2020, right?
I still think people need to be happy with, to reiterate on what you're doing, Birch, is people need to be happy with profit. it's just human nature, I think, to want to be greedy and think, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this or sell it. But as long as, like when we did our live cast the other night, as long as you have a plan and stick to it, and you achieve that plan, I still think people need to be happy and stop being so damn greedy.
No, there's no doubt about that.
To me, it's so treat it like a business. Go in with a plan. After you execute your plan, you follow your things through, then and you say you sold it really early, and then you're looking at it later and you're still seeing it run. Well, this is where you still you're approaching it like a business. So you're going back and you're looking, where did I screw up potentially on selling this? I could have maybe held out and changed my approach instead of selling 100%. Maybe I sell 50%, right? So just treat it like a business. Always evaluating what you're doing.
No doubt. I know a lot of guys who came in December, right? Who were just personal friends who, after 2 years, buying Bitcoin up at $400. After 2 years, finally, Bitcoin's $8,000, $9,000. All right, I'm going to get in now. It's like, okay, and they go in, but I think some of all of our friends who are in that same boat, they're average Joes. And so what I mean by that is they didn't put in 10, 20, 30, 50 grand. They put in $800 or $1,500 or something, which is fine. Yeah. They got that up to like $4,000 and thought that they, were doing great. And then they held it all the way back down to 1,500 and then panic sold it. Now they're on the sidelines and then other guys came in a little bit later and bought the top, right? And most of those people have probably been shaken out of the market. And I wouldn't be quick to get back in if I was them. If I bought Ripple after CNBC told me to at $3, I sure as shit wouldn't be trying to put another $5,000 in after getting wrecked. And
it's crushing. Yeah, I remember I blew up one of my first ever trading accounts a few years back, stocks and stuff, and blew it up. And I don't think I came back to trading. I stayed away for a good 8 months, 10 months almost, because you get pissed. You're like, screw this, right?
Yeah. My quick story with that same scenario is with Ethereum. I had a lot of Ethereum because when I did finally get deep in the space, I put a healthy amount in from some options that I cashed out from the startup, and I panic sold almost all of it at $50. And obviously that ended up being a really shitty price to sell. And it was after some extreme volatility. And I was like, I'm out. Like, I gotta, and I pulled like 90% of it out. And this was only about a year ago, a little less than a year ago. Yeah. And I ended up FOMOing back in at like 80. And then I wrote it to 400. And like I said, kind of the rest is history. But I stayed out of the market for a little while and I took like a 10% hit. And I thought a 10% hit was the worst thing that could ever happen as someone who was coming from buying stocks, and seeing 3% moves. So I think education is a big piece, having the right expectations when you get into crypto. And the reality is the expectation of the last 6 months for almost anyone who came into this space is get rich quick. And with those expectations, it's no wonder that the bubble popped. And that's another point of KJ's that I like to reiterate. The bubble popped, guys. I mean, it came down to almost 80%, 75%. Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah, it's such like that. It is the get rich quick scheme, and it's unfortunate that so many have kind of flocked over here because that's what they think it is. And, it's that couldn't be farther from the truth, really. Anybody that I know who's really made it big in this space, they put in their time. They've worked their ass off, and it hasn't been an overnight thing as much as people think it is. There's a lot of, pain that goes with it. Emotionally, you get drained, so.
A lot of us survived, I think, the last year's June collapse of the alt market. And so when, as we approached January, I think I certainly was better prepared for what was to happen. And I think I played it all right, especially from an alt market perspective. I was able to get out of a lot of alts. But so we kind of learned. And I think this new wave of investors, hopefully a percentage of them survive in some capacity or still believe in the space or in the tech. And they see this as a BTFD scenario, right? They see this as an opportunity to accumulate for some longer term gains.
Yeah, and I do think people are of that mindset. A lot of people where they're looking at this as like a temporary dip. With that being said, I could definitely see it going lower if we're talking Bitcoin. I'm not entirely positive the dip is over with, but I think in general, this sort of get rich quick thing is a positive for the space because it does draw a lot of people in, and a lot of those people are going to get wrecked. They're going to go, screw this, it's a scam, I'm out, and never touch it again. But a lot of the
That's what
people
makes a market go.
Yeah, but a lot of the people are going to stay. They're going to actually start researching and go, okay, I got in at the wrong time, but I have a lot of work to do, and I think they're going to research and become more serious people in the space, which eventually will lead to legitimate projects, whether they're doing something cool like you're doing with Bitcoin Bravado, or whether it be a different exchange or any kind of service around Bitcoin you can imagine. But all of these things contribute to the larger crypto ecosystem,
Totally.
which is absolutely essential for the whole thing to grow and to keep going and to sustain.
Yeah. The Mt. Gox era that did it too, right? Where there was a lot of people flocking in at the time. Well, now compared to now, it's not a lot of people, but at the time it was a lot of people, and they're all flooding in near the top. Next thing you know, Mt. Gox gets hacked. And how many people have we talked to here on the podcast that, yeah, they were getting in at the top of the Mt. Gox days, and they just got completely dumped on for a year or so, and they stuck it out. And now they're sitting pretty, but they had to go through some shit to get there.
Yeah. I think that right now you're starting, like, how many Telegram groups and Twitter personalities have died over the last 2 months? Tons. As someone who lives in Telegram and my entire business revolves around it, I keep tabs on the entire industry, and very few Telegram groups are growing. Almost all of them have very little to no engagement. Even Cointelegraph, 100,000 plus followers, they get like 7,000 views on a post. We get more than that in 24 hours. So it's just a lot of, there's a lot of people who were experts and came up, and I was on Instagram today for the first time in a long time. I kind of got back into Instagram, and there's this kid his whole story is, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I turned $12,000 into $1 million in crypto. And now you can too, right? Here's my trading course.
Oh, God.
The reality is, if anyone put in 12 grand at the right time and just bag held, you could have made $1 million. If you put 15K into Dragon Chain, you would have made 1.2 million bucks from it. The people who traded, or the people who diversified and built their portfolio outperforming the market, are the people who I have the most respect for. And the people who I'm really going to have respect for are the people who are still around in another 6 months.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another sort of measure of that in terms of new people coming into the space is Twitter followers. I mean, mine have been somewhat flat. I mean, growing, but definitely not like they were growing this past summer or these past winter months, especially, where it seemed like every day I was getting like a couple hundred Twitter followers. Anyway, so I think that's also been true with a lot of the people I follow on Twitter, where they've kind of stalled a little bit in terms of their follower count. And we've actually, I think it was Bitcoin Dad we had on here, who was saying that one of the biggest hallmarks of a coming alt season that he can recall is his followers went through the roof, and then alt season really started. So I think perhaps that will precede the next alt season as well. I don't see why it wouldn't really.
That ties into your Google Trends theory too, which I love. I think that as investors and traders, looking outside the box for trends like that is going to be huge for us. I totally agree.
Oh yeah,
all about data.
It's been very interesting. Yeah, because in crypto, we've discovered a number of different metrics, however legitimate they may or may not be, but they're indicative of the entire ecosystem. And it's a very interesting thing. Instead of just looking at a chart and going, oh, this is a bull pennant or this is a falling wedge or whatever, all these sort of other things that we have access to just being in the space. That's why I think it's really important to fully immerse yourself in the space if you're serious about it. Crypto is super complex. I say it all the time. It's such an onion where you got to peel it back, and there's so many different layers to unveil. But you get so many benefits just to joining a community, the ecosystem, Twitter, Telegram, connections. So I would say definitely dive in head first if you're serious about this.
And network. You have to network and ask questions. Bravado was built up now of almost 20 different influencers make up some of the content we put out, including a few that you guys have hosted on the show. The reality is, some of my expertise from an investing standpoint, expertise I use very, very loosely, is that I understand valuation, how to value companies, and fundamental analysis really well. But that's pretty much where it ends. I don't know shit about masternodes or mining or delegated proof of stake. I certainly wasn't a technical analyst when I first started. So what did I do is I surrounded myself with people who were really, really good at those things. And I think one thing I've always stressed throughout my career and just people that I've met and networking and everything is, you have to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. I mean, that's the only way to kind of grow and learn, right?
Yeah, totally. And to build on that, Richard Bronson, one of the most successful businessmen, said that when he interviews people, he asks them, are you the smartest person you know? And if that's the first question he said.
Definitely not.
And when if they say no, he goes, well, write the name and number down of the person that's the smartest because I want to interview them.
That's great.
So I mean, it is crazy, and
That's great.
he says too that surround yourself with people that are better than you because they'll challenge your topics and only make you a better leader.
Yeah,
so it's totally
absolutely.
And now I'm a masternode fiend. I can't get enough of these things. Setting up this Solaris masternode right now. I'm all about those. If we had a year-long plus bear market cycle, I'll just be staking coins. I'm down.
To me, that's the time you want to have a masternode, really, because I remember thinking about setting up masternodes when everything was just kind of in this raging bull market, and it's like, I don't really think I want to do that because there's an opportunity cost with that when the market's just going so wild. Why do you want to have things locked up, right? But hey, bear market, get that passive income, accumulate,
Yeah, and your portfolio should be made up of longer term investments too, not all short term stuff.
Hey, in these last 10 minutes or so, let's go over some shit coins that you are hyped on for the next year or long term or short term.
Yeah, totally. So I think for me personally, even though I love some of the bigger cap coins, from a shitcoin perspective, I'm getting far more into some of the really low cap stuff. And when I say really low cap, I'm talking like $20-30 million market cap. But specifically, one of the things that I'm personally doing, and I don't think it'll work for everybody, but I'm actually getting on the phone with these guys. So in the last 72 hours, I've spoken to the leaders at Zcoin, Bread Wallet. I've spoken to Pivx, some you get the idea. And as a part of that, it's kind of part of my diligence process is trying to really understand, because there's not a lot on the roadmap for a lot of these coins in the next couple of months. There's not a lot to be hyped about, and news isn't moving coins. Walton just announced a partnership with freaking Alibaba, and it pumped 20%, which is a joke. Yeah, nice. So news isn't moving coins. So a couple shit coins I like. If we are talking big caps, I'm definitely extremely bullish on XMR. That's my favorite. I did an article in our monthly newsletter about privacy coins. So I think that's a common theme that I've heard from some others on your show as well, is that we're very bullish on privacy coins in 2018, decentralized exchanges. So I really like Solaris. I really like, which is a really small market cap privacy coin. I am a fan of Pivx. I'm a fan of Zcoin. I'm a fan of Monero. Some other coins that I really like, one that'll get me and definitely stir up some opinions and feelings, is Polymath. I was able to avoid buying the pump and FOMOing into that, and now I've started to take some really nice positions. I actually think they're really going to struggle to accomplish their goals. I actually think Polymath has some lofty goals that are multiple years away from even attempting to really succeeding. But I think that their first mover advantage will allow them to be really successful, and their marketing is beautiful. I mean, it's
real quick. Can you explain a little bit more about what Polymath is? We had a number of people asking about it on the live stream yesterday, and I know next to nothing about it. So just kind of a primer for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, I think at the high level, the easiest way to think of Polymath is that it's a platform for tokens to have security, for security tokens to be compliant. Essentially, I think what they're doing is they're saying, listen, we know that you're not all utility tokens. I think they have the foresight to see that a huge part of this market will be in securities tokens, tokens that are used to raise money, tokens whose value is directly tied to the success of the company. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, in order to be a security token, you need to have all of your ducks in a row, right? All of these different things. We don't need to dive into each one. And the whole purpose of what Polymath is trying to do is kind of bridge that gap, and is trying to be that platform. Now, originally they wanted to be a protocol. And that may still be in the pipeline, but right now they're essentially an Ethereum token. They're an ERC20 token. They're not their own protocol, but they are trying to kind of bridge that gap, basically be a platform for securities tokens. And because there's next to no one else in that space, and I think security tokens are going to need legal counsel, among other things, I think that it's something that I'm excited about. And the primary reason I'm buying Polymath now is because I believe that just because of hype and marketing alone, they will be one of the ones that do kick up in the alt market, whether they're successful or not from a company standpoint. That's just the reality of it. And then Storm. I love Storm. It's my new favorite shitcoin. It's not, they're all shitcoins, anything that's not Bitcoin, but it's got 100 some odd $1 million market cap. I don't know exactly what it is, say 150 million or something. And Storm is I think going to capitalize really well on the gig economy. Again, my background is in startups, and the startup that I was a part of early stage really tapped into this gig economy, like an Uber or Postmates or on-demand delivery. It's basically the ability for anyone, whether they're skilled or not, to fulfill tasks and gigs for money in their own time. And we're definitely in the gig economy right now. And Storm is a marketplace, almost like a freelancer marketplace that allows you to tap into that. And they're advised by the likes of Bill Shahir, multiple of the Ethereum founding team, multiple members of the Ethereum founding team. Bill Shahir is the CEO of Bitmex, for those who don't know. So honestly, you put names like that on a coin like that, with a use case and a utility like that, with a market cap of 100 million, I'm all in. Like I personally know one of the advisors on their team. I really, really like Storm.
I haven't heard anything about it, so I'm gonna have to check it out too.
It's only on HitBTC. I shouldn't say only, but HitBTC is the primary. It's on Bancor as well, and CoinRail, and it's on IDEX, but HitBTC is the only place you can get it. So,
you guys have anything else for Birch before we wrap it up?
No, I was just going to ask about which coins you like. So it's definitely some interesting info there.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. This has been awesome.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys having me on. I think the most common question I get is when Moon, right? And so when are the alts going to come back? I'm not sure what your guys' individual opinions are on it. My personal take is probably April, and I think that a lot of it has to do with ICO money freeing up as some of these coins come out. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about yourself. Are you guys Are you guys tied up in ICOs?
I'm tied up in one. I'm sure everybody knows about at this point. Tezos.
Yeah, I got Tezos. Got a few others.
You're still tied. Yeah,
got a couple.
Yeah, same with me, right? And so my trading stack is a smaller percentage of my portfolio, and almost that entire stack is tied up in ICOs, right? So if I'm not trading and I'm a trader, and that's what I do, it's no surprise to me that we have $16 billion in volume and no one else is trading either. Yeah. Some things are going to have to change in the market before we see that volume pick up.
Well, Birch, again, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you.
Kind of last minute. So we are very grateful and appreciate that.
No sweat. I love the work that you guys do. As you know, I've shared you guys on Twitter. Definitely keep it up. I love the podcast. And this kind of goes back to the community thing. I think the more people that we can kind of bring together to share their collective knowledge is going to be better for the space. And so absolutely love the work you guys do. And I'll definitely be shilling your channel some more. Again,
that's awesome. And
I am at Bitcoin Birch on Twitter. So.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about Bravado quick at all? To anyone listening?
Sure. I guess I can't turn down a free plug. Bitcoin Bravado on Twitter and Bitcoin Bravado on Telegram. The easiest way to get to our free Telegram channel, which is now 35,000 subscribers strong, is trybravado.com. And then you can pick up our monthly newsletter at bitcoinbravado.com if you're so inclined. But connect on Twitter and we'll continue to try to share the wealth.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks everyone listening. We, as always, love your support and couldn't do this without you. So tip your waitress. Take care. Peace out, dudes and gals.